Good evening. For the DPP grain test, this is Dwayne Lowry. It's Sunday, October 23rd. It's another Sunday night. Harvest is winding down in a lot of areas. Little in the way of weather to slow harvest from here forward, or if it does, slow it not in a meaningful or harmful way. It's very difficult to find a global weather story that has much influence on markets as well. Friday's price action was weak. Markets made its highs early in the day. Lots of emotion, a lot of excitement around. At the end of the day, we failed, and markets fell all the way back to basically unchanged, with beans actually closing lower. It's the fifth day in a row beans closed lower on Friday, and you're down, a large chunk in just 5 days. So you might have some technical considerations that argue for some sort of a bounce in beans, but overall, this price action is weak and continues to underline there's some sort of a concern that the market has. European debt crisis talks over the weekend. You're probably going to find all kinds of interpretations, but at the end of the day, at the end of the weekend, I think what we have here is a lack of a clearly positive development. Now we're not going to find out anything till Wednesday or Thursday. There's a lot of talk about what will be done, but the question is it going to be enough? With really nothing else here to look at other than technical conditions on the follow-through, on the heels of Friday's very poor performance, that probably creates a situation where we've still got selling interest that is building above the market, and a price action that has been underperforming expectations, and still a lot of hope that prices will recover, but not a lot of meat behind it. We don't have the fundamental storylines here to really drive us. The yields is still a big debate. All I know is that people that were loudly exclaiming how terrible the yields were going to be before harvest began have largely gone mute during harvest. So that tells me that the yields are not quite as bad as what they expected. Most of the anecdotal reports I hear are better than expected yields, and whether that was a sign that the pessimism was too great before harvest, or whether it's a sign that the yields are noticeably better, we don't know yet. But it appears to me that we don't have a fundamental storyline to build prices here. But the most important thing that we have here, I think, is this European debt situation, the global economy, and whether we're dealing with an inflationary or deflationary environment. And you've got banks that are looking to wind down or reduce their exposure to commodity trade type lending. You've got European banks that are going to be forced to increase their capitalization by a fairly significant amount. You've got European banks that at one time had signed on to an agreement to take a 21% write down on Greece's debt. Now it looks like, before it's all said and done, they're probably going to have to take a 50 to 60% write down in Greece debt. You got Italy on the brink of having a problem or becoming the next focus, even if they do get a Greece situation solved. And for the life of me, I don't know how anybody can look at any of this and say, you know what, I want to invest in euros. I want to own euros. I think that this is still a deflationary environment, and it will be until the U.S. Fed decides they're going to print more money. And I think for a while that's going to be very hard to come by. So in my opinion, we have a situation here where the global investor is going to want to own U.S. dollars. They're going to be concerned about the euro, no matter what they come to an agreement on on Wednesday or Thursday of this week, assuming they do reach an agreement. There's a great risk that any agreement will be seen as not big enough. I think that's the big risk here. And I still think that we have a situation here that global markets are in an overall liquidation mode, and you got the end of the year just around the corner. None of this looks to me to be conducive to new investor money being poured into commodity markets. If that all statement is true, then it's going to be very difficult to get the grain markets to build upon the rally that they've had off the very sharp break they had during the month of September. The strength from the 1st of October till current values is just corrective in nature, and my concern is we're going to go back and revisit those lows. So I think there's a lot of concerns here, and if a producer has bushels that they want to sell, they don't want to store, they want to convert it into dollars, they want to make sales before the first of the year, it looks to me like current values may be maybe reasonable to consider this is at the upper end of possible parameters between now and the first of the year, with real concern and a legitimate threat that we will visit the early October lows again before this calendar year is out. So I'm still very concerned and focused on the global economy and the implications, and I don't think any of this is bullish commodities. As far as tonight is concerned, I wouldn't rule out we trade on both sides. There's a lot of diverging of opinions regarding the European situation. We had a big sell-off off Friday's highs to by Friday's close, so if somebody says we're going to trade higher tonight, I don't have an argument with that, but I don't think we're going to find building new momentum to pay up for things and to build a trending higher value from current levels. And I think you've got selling interest that's going to build above the market based on technical conditions. So I wouldn't rule out the trade on both sides, but it looks to me like markets is not on very solid footing here. So I'm going to actually call things a little bit easier tonight, but I wouldn't be surprised there's calls and expectations that are quite mixed. So while we all want to be anxious to call for a seasonal bottom and expect prices to go up from here, I just don't think it's in the cards. And I think that until we can get a South American weather problem, until we can get some of the global economic fears put aside, or some certainty to what the direction of Europe is going to be, I think the global commodity investor is going to be nervous, not adding to positions, but actually cutting down on positions. So I'm going to go with a little bit easier tonight and basically have very notable concerns for the next several weeks about what our price potential is. For the DPP Grain Desk, this is Dwayne Lowry. Thank you.